Hello, this is Paul talking to you about our beloved Course in Miracles, special relationships and holy relationships. It's a pretty big topic, but there's a kind of a way to approach it that's fairly simple. In heaven, your relationships are holy. In heaven, every part of heaven loves every part of heaven. God loves all of his children equally. Every son of God fully loves every other son of God equally. Every creation is fully loved by every single part of creation. There is a total openness and fullness in every one of those relationships, where no relationship has something that the others don't. No relationship has specialness or exclusion or isolation. There's no special treatment. There's no special rules that apply to some and not others. Holiness means wholeness. And in order to relate in a holy way, you have to fully relate to the whole. So a holy relationship really is, the wholeness of myself is fully embracing everything. I'm having a complete, full, whole relationship to the whole. And that's the condition of heaven. That's how things are going on there. Everything is loving everything fully. Everything is shared with everyone. There's no like secret pacts. There's no exclusive relationships. There's no special love. It's all, every person is fully, unconditionally, without exception, loving every single person. Equally, perfectly equally, fully in every case. Every single one is fully loved, fully loved, fully loved. Nobody is singled out, nobody's isolated. And then along comes the ego and tries to disrupt this state of perfect relationship. And as the Course says, you sought special favor from God. You tried to have God say, I'm going to give you something that I don't give to the others. It's going to be something just for you. It's special. It's unique to you, isolated from the rest, separated off from them. I'm only going to do it for you, and you're going to be put on this special pedestal, worshipped. So you can see immediately that that's the desire by the ego idea to elevate itself above a child of God, to try to be God, and to have God worship a child, to say, my child, you are above me, and I worship you, and I give you adoration beyond what I even give myself, and that I put myself down in order to put you up. That's what we tried to get away with. We tried to ask God to favor us and to disfavor everyone else. So to love us fully, but don't love anyone else fully, which is quite a selfish thing to do. And that's why the ego is the idea of selfishness, and the soul is the idea of self-fullness, fullness of relationship versus selfish relationship. Selfishness is specialness. So we sought this selfish, special way of relating. God did not comply, but by desiring it, we put ourselves into imprisonment, because specialness is imprisonment. As soon as you try to narrow down the whole, you try to separate things off, you try to deny access, you try to prevent some people from being loved, you're basically cutting off parts of creation and trying to say, I'm going to focus only on relating to this part and I want to exclude this part. This is exclusive. This now has special rights. This now has a special set of rules and special truth that doesn't apply to anybody else. And this is the chosen one. And so in ego, we narrow down our perspective from I embrace everything to I will only embrace a tiny little piece of existence, and everything else will be shut out, everything else will be blocked, banned, rejected, hated, attacked, denied. And so then you get into this dynamic where you're believing, I especially am fond of this little piece that I think is my own. I especially love it, I adore it, I value it with artificial value, but only because I also simultaneously must reject and hate and exclude and want nothing to do with the rest. So this state of ego, this state of specialness, is a sort of has two parts to it. There's the what's the inside the isolation, what's inside the prison, what's inside the exclusive focus, and the stuff that's outside of it. So there's the I want this stuff, I don't want this stuff, and both parts of that forms this special dynamic, special love and special hate. So now you have the things that are allowed and accepted are considered lovable, the things that are rejected are considered hateable, and you have both of those together. You go down from wholeness into separation, into exclusion, and now the mind has been split, because part of your mind now believes that something it wants is here and not over there. Your mind is now out of balance. You've lost touch with equality, and now you are believing that while some things are desirable and valuable, other things are undesirable and hated, and they're enemies, and you don't want them, and you wish they would disappear. And so you try to only focus on these exclusive things, special things, to try to deny that the other stuff even exists, to get to the point where you believe all my focus and attention is on this one thing. It seems sacred, it seems like the only thing that exists, but because all the rest of the world seems to disappear and not be important to you, because it's been shut out and you don't want it, and secretly, unconsciously hate it and despise it and want it to be dead. And it's quite funny. When you hear special love songs, you're the only one for me. Ooh, I love you, baby. I want you and nobody else. I want you and nobody else. Which sounds like it's saying, I really think that you're totally lovable, but it's only because I think everybody else sucks like shit and I hate the guts. Now, and here's the thing. Here's the interesting fact that the special love does not want to acknowledge. And it's that so long as you maintain that some portion of creation is unworthy of your love, and you only want to love a piece of it, because your mind has to now maintain attack thoughts, guilt, sin projections, judgments towards these other things to try to keep them away from you, you cannot maintain a state of perfect love. In order to keep these things in your mind, to keep the walls, the prison walls, to keep the unwillingness to love, the blocks to love, the the boundaries, the way that having enemies, people that you don't think are lovable. In order to maintain all that stuff, you have to carry it in your mind, and now that is actually blocking love. It is weighing you down. It is diminishing how much love you have, because love itself must apply to everyone equally, otherwise it's not love. Unconditional love does not have conditions, it doesn't have limits, it doesn't have walls, it doesn't have boundaries. So when you go into, I especially want to love you the most, you literally are going into, I want to love you the least, because the more that you shut out everybody else and hate them and don't want them to be part of the special loving, the darker your mind becomes and the less you can love. So it's like you think that you're becoming very exclusively loving and idol worshipping and becoming as loving as you can be, but if you go in that direction, it must be that the rest of the world is condemned and judged and hated more and more and more, to emphasize the contrast and increase the pedestal on which you've erected this idol, particularly the body. You now worship this thing as if it's amazing and fantastic because everything else sucks like hell. That must entail a reduction in the overall level of sanity and love and unconditionality in your mind. So the level of real love and openness and sharing is diminishing. The separation is increasing, and therefore the blocks to awareness of love are increasing by trying to love only one thing. And so as the ego is telling you, yeah, you can love this one thing fully. Look how unconditionally I've loved my pets. Look how unconditionally I love this one person. I love my children unconditionally, but I hate all the stupid neighbors and those politicians and everybody else. As soon as you go that way, you believe that you're loving them more because you believe you're loving everybody else less, and so the overall amount of love is not going up, it is going down. And so now you're not actually loving that person more. You're going to get to a point of resentments and darkness and feeling rejected and jealousy, and when that person doesn't give you what you want, you're going to go into a special hate spaz. And all your hate is going to start projecting. The hate that you had for everybody else is going to start projecting onto this person. You're going to want to attack them and see them as a victimizer. And now you've got all this shit going on with this person that you supposedly love because of the fact that your love is not full. It is not unconditional. It is not unlimited. The narrower it becomes, the less it becomes love, the darker it gets. And so it's a myth that you can love one person fully. Because if you're trying to fully, as much as you possibly can, love that one person, but not everybody else, there is a place in your mind where you have some hate, you have some judgment, some rejection, some enemies that's sitting there blocking love. It's reducing love, reducing the love that you have for this person. You have this guilt, you have this sin that's weighing down the amount of love. You're trying to go up with your love, and the weight of your belief in enemies and sinners is dragging it down at the same time, and it can't go up past the ceiling of your hatred. So in order to claim that you are unconditionally loving anything, you have to get rid of the exclusivity. Otherwise, it's bullshit. You cannot be fully loving an exclusive thing. The exclusivity stops the love. It makes it conditional. It removes all of love's qualities and fullness and turns it into a bunch of bargaining and conditions and codependency and all kinds of shit like that, broken relationships and constant conflict because of the absence of love. And love is unconditional. If you don't have the unconditionality, you don't have the love. So I don't love my pets 100% because I don't like that person's dog. I don't love my spouse 100% because I think that person's an asshole. You cannot love and hate at the same time. The hatred stops you loving. So if we get honest about it, it is never possible to exclusively love somebody fully. If you want the exclusivity and the specialness, you do not want unconditional love. Which is kind of sobering because it makes you realize that the relationship that you thought was going to be perfect and it's special and it's the chosen one. Try not to make too much wind here because it picks up a little bit. It's not possible to have a special person that is the only one you love. Any blocks anywhere about anyone is going to reduce the love, and that includes you. If you don't have unconditional love for yourself, when you go to love this special person, all of a sudden the parts of you that don't believe you're lovable are going to come flying up in your face and say, but what about this? What about this sin? What about this unlovability? What about that guilt? To remind you of why you don't love that much, and then you run up against a ceiling of your own limitations that you've placed on the love of yourself, causing you not to be able to go past that to love them anymore. So you have to love yourself in order to be able to unconditionally love anyone. If you don't love yourself, you cannot love people. Or as an analogy, your cup has to be full in order for it to overflow to others. You've got to be willing to receive love from God and forgiveness in order to be able to extend it to others. But there's also a trick here, because if you do deliberately try to extend love, it can increase the level of love that you are receiving, because it activates a flow, and the willingness to try to send love to people actually does increase how much is coming through you. So it lifts you up as well and heals you as well, but that's a different story. So the thing is that you cannot honestly claim to fully love a special person. There's something about that relationship that is limited. It's confined. You only allow the love to be felt for this one person. You have certain attractions to this type of body and not other types of bodies. You have them on a pedestal. You think they're the one and they complete you, and you have this codependency going on. All these special dynamics, ego dynamics, that are preventing love and preventing holiness. And so the Holy Spirit wants to take your isolated imprisonments, your special love relationships, starting out from a position of intense exclusivity, separateness, rejection of others, loneliness. You could be in a special relationship believing that this person is the chosen one and feeling lonely because of how isolated you are from everything else. The special love anchors you to the body. The bodies are then worshipped, and then nothing is seen beyond the body, and then it all becomes about sex, and it's loveless. And the attempt to bring the bodies together to join is an attempt not to join with everything. It's actually an attempt to exclude and separate and isolate. And in this special love, in this exclusive secret behind closed doors secret love, there's actually a shutting out of way more than is allowed in to the relationship. And what appears to be an illusion of love is not really love. It's this special value, this artificial value that you make up. You invented it. Just gonna get a little bit of air going here. I will have special love for the air conditioning for the rest of the summer until I return to my hatred of winter. Okay, so it's all very interesting. What appears to be, you can get into a relationship with somebody, think they're the one for you, they complete you, and they're the person that you've fallen in love with, and you have this what seems like an amazing sacred relationship where when you're with them and you love them, it seems like the whole world disappears. But it's very, very exclusive, and as soon as the Holy Spirit tries to repurpose this relationship, the boundaries, the structures, the ego dependency, the use of the person, the selfishness, all's going to start coming into question. Because if you try to turn, the Holy Spirit doesn't say you need to stop having this relationship. He wants to transform it into holiness, but that also entails a key point, that as it's transformed to holiness, the boundaries and the exclusion, the isolation, the conditions will have to be lifted. So you're going to transition from imprisonment and isolation and darkness to the openness, unconditionality, light, wholeness, applies to everyone, full, unconditional, equal love for every single person. There's a nice statement in the Course that says, you cannot enter into relationship with any of God's sons, into real relationship, unless you're willing to love them all and equally. Because as I explained, until you get to the point where you have absolute full love for every single person, so that there are no conditions, there's no exclusions, no exceptions, no times when you don't love, no particular types of people that you don't like, only then is there no guilt anywhere, no attack, no sin, no rejection, no blocks to awareness, and only then does love become perfectly unconditional. And it's only then, in perfect unconditional love, that you can have a real relationship based on love with a particular person, on the condition that, so to speak, you love everyone the same way that you love this person. If you want to love your special person, your spouse, your child, your parents, whatever, your lover, your mistress, you want to love this person fully, you cannot do it by maintaining the exclusion and the specialness. It has to entail a willingness to love everyone as fully as you want to love this person. Otherwise it's not holy and it's not unconditional. So if, let's say that you have 70% love for this exclusive person and some hatred of some other people, and your love is not quite at its maximum as a result. You believe that it's very strong, but it isn't maximal because it's limited by your guilt and hatred. In order to love this particular person more and to love yourself more, you have to lift away all of the barriers, boundaries, blocks, walls, limits that is confining the love, to free the love, to allow the love to extend without being stopped, to let the love occur in all conditions, to place no limits on the love. Love cannot be limited. It has to extend. It has to be shared. It has to be inclusive. Otherwise, it's not fully love. So if you want to love this particular person that you used to think that you love them fully, and now you're realizing, well, maybe I don't really love them as fully as I could because I still have grievances against this other person and I still hate those people over there. And when I'm hating them, I'm not loving this person. If you want to love that person as fully as you can, which you should, it also is going to have to mean loving everyone else as well. That's the only way. The only way to get to unconditional love for a specific individual is to love every single individual equally. This is the dynamics of how it works. It is the law of God. It is the golden rule. Whatever is true of you must be true of everyone else. If you love yourself fully, you must love everybody else fully. You can't love yourself fully if you're saying, I only love that and not this. Because then within yourself you're going to say, I love this part of me but not this part of me. It has to be full. So your special relationship that starts out in isolation and imprisonment and special value, artificial illusions of love, has to become transformed so that the things that make it special are dissolved, and so that real love can enter, and then the real love can expand beyond this person to everyone, broadcasting everywhere all the time. Can't switch it off, so that this person can be loved. But that's going to have to mean that you set this person free. It's going to have to mean letting go. It doesn't mean you can't stay living with them, or you can't agree upon some kind of rules of exclusion if you really must. It doesn't mean you have to go have sex with 100 million people. It doesn't have to mean orgies. It doesn't mean physicalized, level confused bullshit. There's a line that talks about how the sight that sees the body has no place in a holy relationship, because focus on the body is part of exclusion. It's part of isolation and imprisonment. It's part of the conditionality. As you shut down, you confine to the body. You block spiritual sight. Christ's vision gets switched off, and then you only see bodies, and then you start worshipping bodies, and now you're separate, and now you're having this illusion of I love this separate thing while maintaining separation, and the whole focus is on bodies and what the bodies do to each other, which is nothing because they can never join. And then sex is bullshit. And then even the idea of marriage, the idea of exclusive relationships where people say that marriage is holy, that it's sacred. This is the ego talking about how you must partner up with one individual and give this person everything and make a special vow to do so, such that you do not do the same thing with anyone else. And we'll call this holy, and we'll call it sacred and God's will, but it's a form of, or an expression of, an idea of specialness. If you could be truly married to a person by joining minds in holy relationship, you would have to be married to the sonship. you would have to be married to God and Jesus. And the Holy Spirit too. So this institution of marriage, which is a very fixed ego thing, is really the opposite of unconditional love. It's a device that could be used, depending on your will, to convert the special ways of relating into unconditional ways of relating, lifting away imprisonment, lifting away rules and restrictions and limitations and getting jealous and manipulating and guilting and having power over each other and all this bullshit. So your relationship with this particular person can be used as a template, as a place where you perfect your unconditionality, which has to mean that the way you relate to this person is going to have to change, and your love is going to have to stop being narrow and broaden and become more inclusive and transcend the relationship in order to have a relationship at all. Because if you are relating on love, you are having a real relationship. If you're relating based on ego stuff, you're actually separate and you're not actually joined, and therefore you're not having a relationship. You're maybe to a degree, but it's not the same thing as unconditional love. So because of the golden rule, which can never be broken, you can deny it and you can pretend it doesn't apply, but if you go into states of this applies to me and not you, this only is true of this person and not these other people, and that puts you into a focus on the body and the appearance of differences and the illusions that make you believe that there is something about this that you like and something about that you don't, and then forming reasons why you cannot love. All this stuff has to be overlooked because it's a deception, and the focusing on the body of the person is actually causing you not to see them and to not relate to the love that's in them. The love that's in them must be the priority, and it's not because it's in them, it's because it's the same love that's in them is in you, then it's in your brothers and your sisters and your aunts and uncles. Everyone has that same love in them, and it's what joins everyone together, because everyone shares the same love in a union of perfect connectedness, which is way beyond any kind of sexual activity, any kind of body interaction. And so a holy relationship basically ignores bodies and looks past bodies, uses Christ's vision to look at your brother's soul and have a soul-to-soul relationship that doesn't even allow the body to enter into it. And the purpose of the body is only then as a communication device, and it's not being used to separate. If your mind stops at the surface of the body, you've become blinded by perception of form. If you don't see past the person's body and you say, I love your body, it's the most amazing idol worship that I've ever seen, you're being blocked, and now you're not really loving them. You're just worshipping them, and that's not the same thing. But the light that's in them is in everyone, so you can't open your eyes and love the love that's in that person without recognizing that that same love is in the other person and in you and in these other people. And so you have to love the love that's in everyone equally. That is holy relationship, and it lines up with and mirrors, is a reflection of the relationship structures in heaven, where every single person loves every single person fully. Without limits, without conditions, everyone shares the entirety of creation with everyone else. your entire being is accessed by every other being you share and are one with. Everything that has ever really been created, that is holy relationship. Let's see if I can reduce the wind a little bit. Okay, so it's natural to relate that way. The way you relate in heaven is perfectly natural and permanent. It's effortless. It's the way you relate when nothing's going wrong and there's no ego getting in the way. Trying to get to that state, therefore, a holy relationship is not special. It's not something like at the beginning of trying to make your special relationship into a holy one, your ego's going to say, I think our special relationship is a holy relationship. It's so special that it's holy. Been there, done that. The sacredness of this specialness is so magnificent that surely it's holy. And it's totally wishful thinking, it's denial, it's not true, but it's horrifying to the ego to believe that that this valuable relationship is somehow limiting love. I'm just kidding. Jesus. No blasphemy today. So I have to finish up here in a sec. So to have a holy relationship does not mean making a special pedestal. It means removing all of the sense of specialness and artificial value and all that stuff, so that all that's left is genuine, unconditional love, which is not attached to the person, is not manipulating the person, is not controlling the person, not trying to fix the person, and recognizes their divinity beyond their body. So you relate to their whole self that is in heaven. You have a holy relationship coming from your soul, through your mind, to their soul, bypassing the body. That is a holy relationship. And as you're transitioning from specialness and exclusion, opening up your willingness to love, you can't maintain an unwillingness to love somebody else and say that your love is whole towards this person. At some point you run up against that, and you're going to have to love these other people in order to love this particular person as fully as you want to. There's no exceptions. So in this transitioning, your special relationship is given the goal of holiness, but that doesn't mean you're staying in a box and maintaining blinders and only having holiness with this person. There is no holiness there if it's only with that person. The whole purpose of this relationship now is for you to use it as a place where you can develop the dissolving of the ways that this relationship is limited, so that you can go beyond this relationship with your love and expand your love, make your love always applied to everyone all the time, where there's no specialness. Jesus says love is not special. If you make it exclusive, it is not love. It introduces guilt. The only way to love a person fully is to love everyone fully, including yourself. And that is the state of perfect holy relationship. So you're transitioning from selfishness to unconditionality, from exclusiveness to inclusiveness, from isolation to freedom, from darkness to light, from fear to love, from hate to acceptance, from limitation to unlimitedness. So as this relationship heals and becomes a way to express love and to practice loving more fully, it must also entail that the love is going to overflow to other people. You're going to start loving strangers more. You're going to start loving your enemies. You're going to have to love everyone, because here's a simple fact: you cannot love yourself if you don't love everyone. And this to the ego is not welcome, because it means you can't maintain enemies. You can't keep hating that person. You can't keep judging them. You can't keep holding a grievance. All the people that you hate on Facebook and whatever else, you're going to have to forgive them, because if you maintain these attitudes of unlove towards them, you cannot be in a state of love, which means you can't love yourself. So there's no way out. Either if you want to love yourself, which you should, then you're going to have to be willing to love these motherfuckers, those assholes, those bastards, those what other swear words you can come up with. You're gonna have to at some point love everyone if you want to experience love. This is the law. There's no escape. So I'm going to stop there. I think there's probably a lot more we could say about different types of relationships and how the ego is playing in those relationships and how they're not unlimited and so on. I could go into this at great length, but just as a good overview, I think that's the basic model of special relationships and how you repurpose. You keep them, but you repurpose them and you use them to develop unconditionality for yourself and everyone, to get to the point where you can love all of God's children. And then you're holy. You just love all the time. You're just totally lovable. Unconditional love, and that allows you to receive and accept love from everyone, to see love in everyone, and to be willing to be loved by God, and to then share God's love with everyone. So God bless, and hopefully this was a bit helpful, and talk to you again soon. Bye bye, my friends.